Hey everyone, so here are some things that you should do before you add fish to your new aquarium. I am setting up this 5-gallon aquaculture, which is from Walmart tank. So I'm going to be doing this along with you all. Alright, so first thing you want to do is make sure you have a appropriate spot for your fish tank. Make sure it is somewhere that can hold the weight. Make sure you have enough outlets to plug in your filter, your heater, your lights, and whatever else you might be adding to it. Then make sure that it is stable, so you don't want your tank falling over. Even a 5-gallon tank, that's still a lot of water. So you want to make sure that it is in a good spot, and it is an appropriate spot for a fish tank. And also, I would suggest keeping it somewhat away from windows, because too much actual sunlight can cause big amounts of algae in your tank. Mine is probably about 5 to 10 feet away from a window that's open, sometimes open, not all the time though. Alright, then after you do that, you of course want to make sure you have everything that you are going to be using in your tank. So gravel, a filter, a heater. If you use a top, the light. If you have decorations, all of that. I would also suggest getting a bucket of water ready as well. Just make sure you have everything near you, so we don't have to be looking for it later on as you're trying to set it up. Then I would also suggest, when you get a bucket of water, is make sure that it is treated water. So make sure you use some water dechlorinator and whatnot. Make it all nice and good to go. Alright, then next I would suggest cleaning out your gravel. So I have a bag of 5 pounds here, and I rinsed it out multiple times. That way it gets out the debris and the dust and all the nasty stuff that will make your tank look very dirty. And along with that, I would also suggest taking your filter and cleaning that out as well, because again, you can get your charcoal debris that will make your tank water look nasty. And as far as gravel goes, I would suggest at least 1 pound of gravel per gallon of tank. So again, I have a 5-gallon tank here, and I used 5 pounds of rock. You can use whatever type of substrate you want to use. I personally like gravel, and it comes up to about here, so you have a decent depth to it. That way you can put in decorations and plants and stuff without them sticking out of the gravel. To me, it just looks a lot better. And two, it also adds more surface area for beneficial bacteria to grow, which is always a good thing as well here. Alright, and then I would suggest next putting in your filter, which I have one back here, and also a heater. The heater I am going to be using for this could also be bought from Walmart. This is the Tetra submersible heater. It is the 2 to 15 gallon one. It is a automatic. It's automatically set. I think it's like 78 degrees, so it's perfect for tropical fish. Alright, then after you have your gravel and your heater and your filter in there, you can either add in your water next, or you can add in your decorations. I personally like to add in my water before adding in the decorations, just because when you add in the water, it can disperse your gravel, which will most likely happen, and it can also move around all of your hard work of putting in your decorations and plants and stuff. It might just move them all around your tank. So that's what I'm going to do, is add in water next. And I would like to mention once again to use a water conditioner. My personal favorite is Seachum Prime. This is a very, very excellent water conditioner, very high quality. But any high quality water conditioner will work. And then if you do the water first, I would also suggest leaving a decent amount of water left to be filled. So mine is only about there, so I still have about that much space here. That way when you put in your water, again, put your hand in the water, excuse me, your hands, of course, are going to be dispersing the water, and the more you put your hand into the water, of course, the water's gonna rise up, and if you added too much water, it could, of course, overflow, and then you might have some water, they might have some water overflowing, which would not be good. So I would suggest leaving a little bit of space left for some more water, so that way you don't overflow it. Alright, then I would add in decorations. So I have a bucket full of fake plants I'm going to add in next. Alright, so now you can see I added in those decorations. You can, of course, use live plants if you want to. For the moment, I'm just going to use these fake ones. Eventually here I might switch over to live, but for now we're going to use the fake. I think they still look pretty nice. Of course, live will give you other benefits that fake will not. Alright, so then next I would add more water to it. That way, you're not having a gap of no water. And because you now have added in your decorations and whatnot, I would do it very gently so as not to push everything around and again ruin your hard work of putting in those decorations. Another thing I would like to mention right now is heaters should be in water for about 15 or so minutes before you actually plug them in. So by adding the water in before you're adding in your decorations, you're using up some of that time. Then you won't have much longer to wait before you should plug in your heater. So it's always best to wait about 15 or so minutes. That just lets your heater get adjusted to the water temperature. Alright, so now I have filled the tank up all the way with the water. I put on the top. I also turned on the light just for the heck of it. And I plugged in my filter. And then I just gotta wait a little bit longer to plug in my heater. So again, I would suggest about 15 or so minutes to plug in the heater. Otherwise, I think it can actually crack or something if your water is too cold or too different. It's just always best to wait about 15 minutes or so, just so you don't mess up its internals pretty much. Alright, so then your tank is pretty much all set up. The only thing you have to do, and this is the most important thing to do, is to cycle your tank before you add fish into it or add anything into it. So do a complete cycle of the tank. If you don't know what a cycle is, I actually have a few videos on my channel you can look up, or a quick Google search will pretty much show you what it is. And actually the quickest way to do a cycle is to use a chemical such as this Tetra Safe Start here. And this one you can actually add it in, and then you add in fish right away. So depending on what type of biological item you use, which is what this is, you can add fish in a lot quicker than if you do a normal cycle. But the type of cycle you do is completely up to you. But that is a very important thing to do. Is if you add in fish before your tank is cycled, it can actually pretty much poison your fish and either end up killing them outright or shortening their lifespan because they're pretty much just poisoning your fish over time. Alright, yeah, so those are some things to do before you add fish to your new fish tank. Alright, thank you all very much for watching. Hopefully this was somewhat helpful. Thanks again. See you guys next time. Goodbye.